Welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast with your hosts, Joshua Poniatowski and Alex Taylor. Let's talk football.
Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast. My name is Josh Poniatowski, and I'm here with Alex Taylor, the co-host. How you doing, Alex? What's going on, man?
What up, bud? Doing good. We got week 4 in the bag. You know, I feel like it feels like things are starting to settle in a little bit more into the season, so feeling pretty good about things.
Yes, we're going to talk about week 4 observations, talking about waiver buys, buy low targets on the trade market, sell high trade targets, moves that you need to make to win your league. Okay, me and Alex are both undefeated right now, so we know what we're talking about. I'm lying; we're not both defeated, but these are some.
I got one out of 5. 1 out of 5 is
okay,
and then I got some that are not good. You know, but
yeah. Me too. I actually have one too that I'm undefeated in. So yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but these are good moves, right? Use your best judgment. These are good insights to, this week, what's been happening, what's been going on. Before we dive into that though, we are gentlemen and we understand when we make mistakes and we need to be called out on it. So we're going to talk about some guys that we talked about, maybe even all off season for multiple episodes, people we loved. We're telling you to buy high and we just missed, like absolutely missed on these guys. So I'm going to let Alex go first. So Alex, who's your dude?
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to humble yourself,
Yeah.
So, to quote Michael Scott, it takes a big man to admit his mistakes. And I am that big man, Josh. Leading up, in our draft kit, I was very confident that ETN was just going to be an absolute powerhouse this year. I had him ranked as my RB4 in our draft kits. He started strong in 2023 and then kind of fell off at the end. And I was like, oh, that's only because of T-Law's injury. Like, he's going to be back. He's going to be like, full blast and just going to be like an absolute unit. And it is just not the case. He has absolutely 0 boom games so far. He's RB24 on the season. Tank Bigsby's nipping at his heels. Now he's got a shoulder issue he's working through. Like, maybe he missed some time, maybe not, but even so, like, nobody's going to be playing hard with the shoulder injury running up between the tackles. So,
yeah,
I don't know. I got to admit that he is at this point just a middling RB2 moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think many of us saw Tank being as involved as he was. His first year, he did not look great. His yards per carry were terrible. So, the data and, what happened last year to the Jaguars, like everything was there. So, it's all right. It happens. We forgive you.
Moving on. Like, I only drafted him once, so I'm not too upset. But
yeah, that's that benefit of diversifying that portfolio. Even though I choose the alternate route in my drafting, but we all have our strategies. So for me, there's actually a couple I want to mention, but the first I just have to fall on the sword. Zamir White. I missed so ridiculously hard on him. All the data, the coach talk, the breakout year 2 with running backs, everything. I just thought the stars were aligning, and everything told me Zamir would be running back 1 without question. They would run the ball. Their new offensive coordinator focused on the run, and that just didn't happen. Zamir fumbled this week in a critical moment, and at this point, Alexander Mattison, even though he's a middling running back, he's going to be taking probably most of the carries moving forward. Regardless, even if that doesn't happen, it's still a split backfield, and Madison just looks like the better runner at this point. So I'm sad to say that Zamir is officially dead, I would say.
Yeah, he looks cooked. He just does not look exciting in any way.
So disappointing. So I apologize. That is my fault. The next guy though, Malik Neighbors. I don't think anybody ranked him high. Nobody I think saw him as wide receiver 1. After the first 4 weeks of play, but I pushed him down a little bit farther on my list simply because he was a rookie. He had Daniel Jones attached to them. He's on the Giants. It's just, he's a talented guy, and I was super high on him from a talent level standpoint. But come on, like, who saw this man being wide receiver 1 through 4
I
weeks?
mean, he was
Like, give me a
nowhere
break.
close
Yeah.
to this ADP wise. Even even anywhere, his best action would have been like maybe like 3rd or 4th round, not wide receiver 1. Just an absolute beast.
So, I think as a fantasy community, most people missed on that, but I definitely pushed him down because of that rookie status. But we win some, we lose some. All right, so we're gonna jump into the week 4 observations. So these are things that happened during the week that just be aware of. First is gonna be Kyren Williams. He now has a touchdown in 7 straight games. I think last year CMC was the guy who had a touchdown almost every game. It was way more than 7. But if you would have put money on him every week to score an anytime touchdown and just rolled that money over every single week, it would have won you like $500,000 or something ridiculous like that. Not saying
That's a crazy run. Yeah, that's a crazy run.
Right. Not gonna say that's happened with Kyren. But yeah, he is definitely the true workhorse back in that Rams offense. He's getting the goal line touches when he needs them. We talked about this last week as still a buy low option. As the offensive line continues to figure it out more and more, he's going to continue to see that high upside. He's getting the opportunities in the red zone. And Alex, do you kind of agree that he's going to continue to dominate?
Yeah, the guy is just a beast and gets all the touches there. There was that week 2 where I think people were getting a little excited. Maybe Blake Corum was coming around. Corum had nothing this week again. Just one of the very few true bell cow running backs in this modern day NFL. So he's just automatic for me right now. I'd be very excited to own him anywhere.
Yeah.
Last week, in kind of my buy low segment, I did tell people to go out and try to buy low on Mike Evans wherever you could. He had that subpar game after playing against Patrick Surtain. But he went out and proved me right, going out and getting 8 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown. But even more impressive than those stats is the 14 targets, which is pretty rare for Mike Evans because usually just like a big play and a red zone guy.
Boom.
It's actually only the 11th time in his career that he's had 14 targets, and typically, or 14 or plus. And typically, it's usually like they're losing, they're trailing, and they're just kind of like, rapid fire throwing to him. So that was actually the first time in his career of having 14 or more targets that the Bucs actually won. They were 0-10 before that. Anytime they threw it to him that much. So all of a sudden, Baker's cooking. They're throwing to Mike Evans just a ton, even with the lead, which is just rare. So I think, I'm just curious, Josh, do you think the way things are going now that Mike Evans could finish as a top 10 wide receiver on the fantasy season?
Yeah, I mean, I still think Chris Goodwin is the guy to own, and Godwin, excuse me, is the guy to own. And it's hard to support 2 top 10 fantasy wide receivers throughout the years. I mean, obviously the Bucs had a huge bounce back. They looked like they did the first couple of weeks. If that continues, maybe Baker can support 2 top 10 wide receivers, but I'm not 100%
QB3
sold
on the season
top 10
so far.
I know, but that's a lot. Like, we're asking a lot for Baker. We're saying, hey, continue to be QB3 week in and week out. Offense looks amazing. But yeah, I mean, obviously a great pick where his ADP was. Hopefully you all bought him last week when Alex talked about him. But yeah, moving into quarterback situation, which this isn't such a great situation. Patrick Mahomes throws the ball, trying to make a play, throws an interception. Rashid Rice, being the athletic beast that he is, forces a fumble. And then Mahomes tries to tackle the dude. Like, I don't know if you saw that tackle. It was terrible. And he missed the guy by a mile. He runs directly into Rashid Rice's knee. They're talking about ACL tear, potentially season-ending injury. That he was their wide receiver option. Obviously, we know, Kelce is, been non-existent. Xavier is there, but his wide receiver situation is just not great. And we're looking at something from last year. Do we see a repeat of 2023? What do you think?
I mean, Kelce did at least finally have his first okay game of the season, which was nice to see. But I mean, I see them as buyers once we get close to this trade deadline. I can see, Devontae Adams seems a little disgruntled with Vegas. I mean, T. Higgins, the Bengals got to play Baltimore next week. They could fall to 1-4. And if they just, he's on the franchise tag. So I absolutely think Kansas City needs and probably will make some kind of move to bring in some kind of help for Mahomes.
I mean, I thought like last year after I think it was like week 3, like in the Chiefs had like top, number 1 drop rate of all wide receivers, and they looked terrible. I thought they were going to do that last year, and I was like, their wide receivers going to be right. Why they're not going to win the Super Bowl? They ended up winning the Super Bowl and figuring it out, and they didn't make any trades to wide receiver. And I was a little irritated because I thought they were going to, but maybe Andy Reid is like, you know what? I don't want to try that hard and be that close, so maybe I should go out and get a wide receiver. So, yeah, those two, keep an eye on that and that potential trade deadline.
Man, so Jordan Mason just does it again.
Mm-hmm.
3rd game already this season of 100+ and a touchdown. Now reports are saying that CMC has his injury on both legs. I didn't know it could hop. I didn't know it was like contagious from like leg to leg.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, both calves are messed up. So, last year, CMC blew up, and he, ESPN had the report. I forget the exact number, but it was like 80% of playoff teams had Christian McCaffrey on it last year. Okay. Now, just with how cheap his draft stock, if Mason was even drafted, will he go down as the most valuable fantasy asset this season?
Yeah, I mean, if he continues to produce at the high level that he is, I mean, at his draft capital, some leagues he wasn't even being drafted unless you handcuffed him with CMC, like we, talked about real early. But yeah, I mean, he's definitely, especially in this running back landscape where there's been so many injuries and hit or miss players. I was fortunate enough to snag him in one of my leagues. Crazy enough, I haven't started him because I got Gibbs and Achane, but and it's full PPR.
There's no flex or anything?
There is flex, but I also have Rice and Nico and who else? I'm stacked in that league. So, he is definitely going to be a league winner if he can stay healthy. If CMC, they're talking about early November optimistically. But again, with these injuries, it could linger and you could just be stuck with CMC on your IR spot all year. Huge league winner there. Moving into league winners, Jayden Daniels. We loved him because of his rushing upside, but he is sitting at QB1 right now on the year. He is also he was the most accurate quarterback in all of college football when he played, and that has translated and moved over to the NFL. After 4 weeks, his completion percentage, not just as a rookie, but as any player in the history of the NFL, is the best that it's ever been at 82.1, completion rate. And that's the best that anybody has ever done through 4 weeks, not just as a rookie. He's looking like prime Drew Brees back in 2018 when he broke that record. He is a generational talent, it appears. Do you think he's going to stick around for years to come and be the reason why the Commanders change their ways?
I do. He looks so comfortable too. At no point does he look flustered. He's just hanging out, hitting people in stride. It's not even like short little dump offs. Like they do a lot of those, sure, like to have a completion rate that high. But he's still throwing deep too. I saw an absolutely just bonkers stat earlier. Through 4 games, Daniels has led the Commanders on 23 scoring drives. And on the season, he only has 19 incompletions. That means when he starts the drive, he is more likely to put points on the board than have a incompletion. That is just that's just ridiculous. So I am curious. Sometimes people, you get these flash in a pan rookies, and the NFL defensive coordinators start to analyze tape and they try to figure out your weakness. Will they figure out something that's a weakness of his? Probably, but to what extent? Because he's doing so good that it's like, even if they buffer him a little bit, he's still proven that he's a legit starting caliber NFL quarterback after only 4 games.
Yeah, I think they've only punted the ball one time since week 1. So
Yeah,
talking
so
about like every time,
they punted yesterday, and it was like he hadn't done anything
right.
since week 1.
Yeah. So whenever he touches the ball, there's a good chance that they're going to put up points. What I will say though, caveat to this is he has played the Bucks, the Giants, the Bengals, and the Cardinals. The Browns are next, which no offense, but these defenses aren't necessarily like elite tier, elite level defenses. So it'll be interesting to see the challenge. I believe he has the Ravens after that. So I think that'll really be a tried and true game to be like, all right, what does Daniels have? It's also going to be electric with those 2 running quarterbacks. So he hasn't yet been challenged on the defensive side of the ball. I don't believe so. But yeah, he has looked amazing, steal the draft. And the QB to own for sure in fantasy.
Yeah, especially in like a super flex league, like just insane.
All right, so we're jumping over to waiver wire targets. These are guys again that are available in at least 50% on waiver wire in leagues. Some of them might be lower percentages, a little bit higher, but we try to keep it around the 50% or less mark. The first group we're going to talk about, and these aren't necessarily in any particular order, but the first group we're going to talk about is the running back situation in Kansas City. Kareem Hunt and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I was optimistic that Carson Steele was going to be the guy in Kansas City backfield. I picked him up. I spent a decent amount of fab on him. And the opportunity share was there. He had all the red zone carries. He was looking like, a 75%, opportunity share versus the other running backs. And then he comes in, I think it was like snap number 2, and he fumbles the ball. Andy Reid pulled him, and he never saw another snap, and he ended the fantasy, I think, with like negative 0.5 points or something like that. So he is obviously not the running back that they wanted him to be. And for Andy Reid to put Kareem Hunt in and get 80+% of the carries, and Kareem Hunt looked great. He had 4.9 yards per carry. He had majority of opportunities. I think Kareem Hunt is going to be the guy to own. So I would be looking for Kareem Hunt if he's available on the waiver wire. If you need a running back, Clyde Edwards-Helaire had, PTSD, the situation. So it's not like a physical injury. It's a mental injury. So I think Kareem Hunt is the guy to own. He's also veteran presence, but that's unfortunate for Carson Steele there.
Yeah, I mean, in that backfield at this point, I would be most comfortable with Kareem Hunt. I mean, I'm not like ecstatic, but that's probably who I would go for. Another candidate, someone I did mention last week with Andy Dalton taking over, Xavier Legette, the rookie first rounder, had a really good game. I mean, they got Adam Thielen's on IR now, so there was an opening there for him to kind of take over that number 2 role. He took 10 targets, 6 catches, 6 yards, and a touchdown. I think he, at this point he warrants a pickup in mostly all leagues.
Yeah, I don't like the guy. I don't care how many opportunities. I'm just gonna, sometimes we got to go with our gut, even though all the data says otherwise. I'm probably not gonna pick him up. I would feel shady at this point starting him. He just was not a great college prospect. I didn't like any of the stuff I saw from him. So I'm not picking him up. But the opportunity's there, and I love opportunities. So next week we might be talking about Xavier Legette again because he got 10+ targets. And at that point, maybe I'll be like, you know what? You just got to pick him up because of the opportunity. Solely that.
Sometimes you just want to like your guys. If you don't like the guy, you don't like the guy. So you don't want to be rooting for, watching him every Sunday. So
yeah. That's my thoughts on Xavier Legette. No reasoning, just gut feeling. The next guy we've talked a couple about at times. This is more of a handcuff. Tyler Allgeier. We talked about Bijan being that sell target last week because of him being in the backfield. Right now, I think he's one of the most valuable handcuffs, obviously behind Braylon Allen. There's only 2 running backs in Atlanta, and nobody else has saw any opportunities. Allgeier actually saw one more opportunity than Bijan last week, which is insane to think on the ground with how high Bijan was going. and the talent level that he has. But again, they have two capable runners, so they're splitting the load. They're not trying to give anybody too many touches. It's a smart from a coaching perspective, but it's a nightmare for fantasy. Hopefully you did heed that warning and unload Bijan. I still think his name recognition and prestige is there, so you could probably still get anybody you wanted. But I think Allgeier needs to be rostered, just from that handcuff perspective, and him just looking good on the ground when he runs the ball.
I mean, the guy put up 80 yards this week. You got to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, it wasn't a crazy amount of touch. I mean, he had, 10 opportunities, which is
it wasn't
something.
A lot. Yeah.
And speaking of opportunities, here's someone that is a bit gross, but might have some opportunity. That's Trey Sermon, running back on the Colts now. At this point in his career, we're pretty confident in saying that Trey Sermon is just not a very good NFL running back.
Mm-hmm.
He's only been averaging 2.7 per carry and only has one catch on the season. Did basically nothing as the understudied Jonathan Taylor. But sometimes the situation warrants a pickup. They said JT's sprain is minor, is what they're calling it right now.
Yeah.
But hey, if you just miss a week or two and you're weak at running back, bye week start this week. So if you just need a spot filler, he will have an opportunity this week to do something. I wouldn't have high hopes, but the opportunity's there. And I mean, I would maybe spend like $1 in Fab to just to lock up like one game.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I think they were talking about it's a high ankle sprain. So, that can be troublesome. There isn't much information on it yet. And obviously the coaches are downplaying it. But, if he misses any time, he's a plug and play running back if you're in desperate need, which a lot of people are at this point, due just to all the injuries that have been happening. Also, two other players that maybe aren't exciting. Jakobi Meyers. Now, this one's a little bit outside of that 50% available. He's taken in about 70% of leagues. But Trey Tucker is about available, is only taken in 20% of leagues. So I'm splitting the difference there. I'm putting them together. The average of the two is below 50%. So I don't expect the Raiders to be playing from ahead in many games this season. If Devontae's hamstring continues to be an issue, also him probably not super excited being on a losing Raiders team and, the trade potential there. These two are seeing about 5 to 8 targets a game. I told you I like the opportunity. If you're in a pinch, deeper league, wide receiver, PPR, both these guys I'm sure are available and viable targets. What I will say, though, is the Raiders are playing the Broncos this week. So if you add either of these two, I would probably not start them this week. This, again, and this is all reliant on Devontae. So, this is just like deeper leagues. You add him, maybe stash him for a week. Or if somebody drops Jakobi because of the Broncos situation, you now have that insight to be like, all right, maybe I should snag him, pick him up. But I'm definitely not starting him this week against the Broncos.
I mean, that could maybe the Broncos situation can maybe even help Trey Tucker just because if the Raiders are smart, you just don't throw Jakobi's way versus Patrick Surtain's over. Sure. And that's one of Trey Tucker actually kind of talked against last week.
Yeah,
just because he had a bonkers amount of targets, but it was a lot of it was garbage time. It's situational. It's how is Devontae Adams' hamstring doing? I did also mention him as a trade candidate, maybe. So for Kansas City, if that happens, then I'm like, oh, totally flip the case. And then all of a sudden he's like a pretty good outlook, someone to consider. And also he has good rapport with AOC. So if they end up making a quarterback change, in Vegas, that could be good for him too.
Cool.
Talking about another Tucker, going from Trey Tucker to Tucker Kraft, the second-year tight end for Green Bay. It seems like pretty much every week in these waiver wires, we talk about some tight end just blowing up out of nowhere with a bunch of targets, and then people pick them up, and then do they do anything? No. Will Tucker Kraft do anything next week? Probably no.
Right, the way things have been going.
It's so gross out there in the tight end landscape that if you want to take a flyer on the guy, I'm not gonna hold it against you. The one thing that is kind of exciting for him is, like Jordan Love is back, and that kind of is directly related
Mm-hmm.
to when he got all those targets.
Yeah.
Jordan Love was there week 1, and he didn't get all these targets either. So it's like, but in my mental narrative of why Tucker Kraft could work out, I'm just gonna be like, oh yeah, Jordan Love loves the guy. No, Christian Watson's done, and someone's got to throw somewhere. So
Yeah.
like I said, I am not obsessed with the guy, but if you want to take he's the tight end wild card dart throw of the week, because there always has to be one. So
yeah, I mean, you could literally just go on waivers and be like, all right, I'm gonna try this guy this week, and maybe he'll go for 20 plus, right? Or he'll get you -1 like Mike Gesicki did, or 0.1, and then Pitts will get you 0 because he got no targets. But yeah, I mean, I think the game script helped him a little bit, right? The Green Bay was down by like 21 or 27 at some point, so they had no option but to throw the ball consistently. But yeah, I mean, tight end situation, pick somebody that you like and throw them in there and give it an opportunity. This next guy, though, I mean, we talked about him last week. Justin Fields. He's available in, over 69% of leagues, 59% of leagues, excuse me. Sorry that. If you are a QB needy team, he needs to be rostered. Like, his rushing upside is just too juicy. This week he rushed 10 times, which is the first time he's done that since 2022, which was around that time he rushed for almost 1,000, or did rush for 1,000 yards. He's looking more and more comfortable in the Steelers offense. He threw for over 300 yards this week as well. Steelers are 3-1. Even if Wilson is healthy, there's no chance they're making a change at quarterback at this point with how well the team has been playing. The defense has looked good, so he hasn't been pressured to have to pass the ball every single, down. Rushing upside, I love it. I think Justin Fields needs to be snagged if you are in a QB situation that you need to have. So, yeah.
He's still a terrible quarterback, but he might have the most
He's a great
largest
back, though, right?
The largest skew of real quarterback value versus fantasy quarterback value of all time. He just keeps doing it just because of his legs, and but whatever. The 300 yards passing was surprising and a little impressive. I'll give him that. My last waiver I pick up Dontayvion Wicks for Green Bay, another Green Bay guy going back to back. Only rostered in 4% of leagues going into this week. All of a sudden just goes berserky with 13 targets that absolutely demands attention. He turned those 13 targets, only 5 catches, which is a little disappointing, but he still had 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. We talked about Christian Watson, might end up on IR. We don't kind of know how long he's going to be out. But I think, he's got, sorry, phone is ringing. But, I think the targets are going to be there now. Like, there's a clear shot at him getting that second wide receiver spot. And I think he deserves pick up in, I would say, every league.
Yeah, I mean, especially with Christian Watson going down, like, this is an absolute must-add. Wicks looks electric. The 2 touchdowns obviously set him over the top, but he's going to see more targets, more opportunities. Jordan Love also, being back and being healthy is also going to help that mix. Might be some boomer bust weeks with this. I look at Wicks maybe as, he's looking like a tank though, in my opinion. You better remember. So high octane offense. He deserves to be picked up for sure. My guy, Wan'Dale Robinson, only rostered, he's available in 46% of leagues, so he's just below that 50% cusp. He is a top 3 wide receiver in red zone targets. He has top 3 wide receiver in catchable passes of all wide receivers, which is crazy because Daniel Jones is throwing the ball. And he's top 20 right now in PPR scoring at the wide receiver position. He literally continues to be a target machine in New York. Obviously, Neighbors is the one to own. It's always worrisome to start any Giants players at the wide receiver position, but they're getting him the ball. He's averaging 9.5 targets a game. the one game where he only saw 4 targets, the Giants led the game late into the third quarter, so the game script favored the run. But this team is going to continue to have to rely on the pass, just because they're not going to be winning many games early on. So I think he's a good add at the wide receiver position, especially in flex and double flex leagues if you need some help there.
The guy just has an insane floor with how many targets. Most of it's all like kind of underneath stuff, like quick outs, quick stops. But especially in like a full PPR or even a half PPR league, like his floor is just bonkers with how many targets he gets. So, I'm not saying he's anything like exciting, but I mean, if you take him and if you need a spot filler for buys or flex, I'd be very comfortable throwing him out there. You're getting something. He's getting something. It's not going to be great, but he's getting something.
And Neighbors is going to absolutely garner all the attention on the defensive side of the ball. So this is going to continue to help him as teams start to try to figure out how to scheme around him. All right, so we're going to move into the sell and buy section. So these are players that we're going to start with selling high. These are players that we think you should sell high. Maybe they had a boom game or 2 back-to-back boom games. Their schedule maybe isn't looking so great moving forward, or they just have underperformed, or the hype is just crazy right now. So you want to take advantage of that based off of a lot of the talking heads, such as ourselves, hyping up players. So I'm going to start DeAndre Swift. We talked about him last week, just being a question mark and losing almost all the opportunities in that backfield with the 50-50 split, not seeing the goal line opportunities. The coach literally said before the game that Roschon was going to get more involved. Well, Roschon only saw 7 opportunities, so I don't know what that means. Swift, dominated the opportunities backfield. He's always been pass catching, right? That's been his one upside. And he led the team on pass catches last week out of the backfield. So that's not going to continue from a consistency standpoint. From the ground game, he had 1 breakaway, which is what his touchdown for about 36, 39 yards. You take that away, he has 60 yards on the ground, 3.8 yards per carry. He kind of fits with what the narrative we've been talking about in his previous weeks. I think this was a boom game. He does play the Panthers next week, so maybe if you don't feel like dealing him just yet, throw some feelers out there for that. But take advantage of this boom game and see if maybe you get a little bit more for him now or package him with something.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, we kind of know DeAndre Swift isn't like a locked-in stud. I mean, even when he was on the Eagles with a great O-line, he kind of was always just like, okay, nothing really more than that. Someone I think you should try to unload, and it might sound a little crazy because you're probably really excited if you own him right now, and that's going to be Xavier Worthy. I feel like right now the fantasy world is just like freaking out. Rashee Rice goes down. It's like, oh my God, Mahomes has to go throw somewhere. And he's really the only exciting wide receiver on the Kansas City Chiefs right now. So I get it. The potential's like through the roof on like what he can do. And I just think that hype doesn't correlate with what we've seen so far. Yes, he's very fast. Yes, he can occasionally have some amazing plays, but he literally has not seen more than 4 targets in a game. He does not have more than 3 catches in a game so far on the season. So I just think, maybe target the guy who had Rashee Rice, and it's like he wants to kind of recoup some of that potential that he had. And I think you trade him now while the hype is like peak.
Yeah. He is a deep ball threat. He's there to spread the field. I think Kelce obviously is going to get the advantage from Rice going down. But I could see this being a great sell now, especially after that deep touchdown that he had last week. Fortunately, Kansas City's offense looked a little lethargic. And now with Rice going down, that's potentially we're going to see 2023 all over again, where they're going to have to figure out how to do it some way or another. And Kelce seems to be that most veteran presence.
And they still will. They still will.
I know. It's so frustrating. All right, so we're going to move into the buy low section. These are players that we think you should buy or at least keep an eye on coming up from a potential buy standpoint. So last week we actually talked about Garrett Wilson. We talked about him getting shadowed by, cornerback 1, the Broncos, Patrick Surtain. He had 5 catches for 41 yards. Owners are getting frustrated.
That's actually the best receiving that against Patrick Surtain on the season. So,
yeah, and the owners are getting frustrated. Like, some people drafted him as their first overall pick based off what league you're in. Maybe early second turn. They're getting upset about the situation. What I will say is, even though he's a buy low target, the next 4 weeks for the Jets is not easy. It's rough. They play Minnesota, they play the Bills, they play the Steelers, and they play the Patriots. All 4 of these teams have really solid defenses. You could wait and maybe buy him a week from now, get him for a little bit less, or maybe even dirt cheap because somebody's just over it and wants to sell him. I think this is going to continue to be a buy low target that you're going to have to eye. I don't know if he's a buy low win trade target right this second, but he's absolutely a value trade target right now for the future. And I think it's only going to be better once he gets through these kind of 4-game stint. And if he has a breakout, then I think it's going to be too late to try to snag him and grab him in any league. So if you can afford losing some value elsewhere to get Garrett Wilson, to get the upside that he brings, it's the time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's a very sound, technically polished receiver. He's just so little that it's like, at a certain point, I'm like, is he ever going to be like, is he physically gifted enough to really ever be like an alpha? I don't know. But I mean, with that offense, he's still the clear number 1. Target's going to be there. I think he's always going to be relevant. I think I'm a little bit like the shine is maybe like he just doesn't quite have that like next level potential. But we'll see. Another guy who really the shine is off hard is Brandon Aiyuk. I don't know what's going on, if it's the holdout, but the man just does not have it so far this season. He has 4 games yet to eclipse 48 yards. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the holdout. Maybe it's Jennings just blowing up and taking all the looks. It's hard to say. But again, considering where he was drafted, as like the late teens, wide receiver 15 to 20, his owners are probably pissed. They've probably started him in their lineups every week. I imagine it'd be pretty bold to have not. But it's like, I think there are going to be a lot of disgruntled owners that you can probably get him for a lot cheaper than what they paid, and he's still just a 26-year-old receiver on a very good offense. So I mean, I would poke around and see what I could get Brandon Aiyuk for.
Yeah, the Niners, they're still figuring stuff out with Aiyuk. I feel like all that the contract issues, and then the shorts issue in the media. I don't know if you saw that, where he was wearing the wrong color shorts at practice. And so I think there's some chemistry issues off there, and maybe that's, translating onto the field as well with Brock, and maybe even play calling, right? First read targets. Maybe he's not getting into those positions. Hopefully as time moves on, he's an electric player. We got to get him involved. Debo obviously is the guy, that most people want to own from a can do everything standpoint, but he's not going to stay healthy for the entire season. So, there's going to be I'm just being honest about the whole situation. Aiyuk is, going to get his opportunities, and I think we're going to see a bounce back as time goes on. Just solely, I think the chemistry is the issue right now, and they'll figure that out. Next guy, another wide receiver, T. Higgins. He's with the Bengals. He's looking back on track. He's only been back 2 games. You got to remember, he sat the first couple games of the season. Chase even looked slow, right? The first couple games. Burrows was slow first couple games. So we got to give T some leeway to get back in the swing of things, to get back in that NFL performance. But the targets are there. Seeing about 8 targets a game, which is great. He should continue to get more and more involved in the offense as time goes on, because he's only been involved in 2 games. The Bengals are starting to look solid. The Ravens are playing them this upcoming week. So my suggestion would be, if you're interested in T, you send a feeler out this week. then when he underperforms, probably against the Ravens, that owner is going to be much more inclined to be like, man, this guy hasn't been doing much. It's only been 3 weeks. I played some capital for him. Let's see if we can get a deal done. So he's definitely a guy I think that underperforms this week. So throw a feeler out, try to buy him up, and grab him from that Bengals offense. All right, so one thing we're adding is the start of the week. So these are just guys that we like or teams that we like from a perspective due to offenses, defenses, or opportunities that we think. So maybe you have some of these guys and you're questioning, what should I do from a start or not standpoint? Alex, who you got for us?
All right, my start of the week is going to make a lot of Swifties very happy. I think Travis Kelce finally blows up this week. And we saw a little bit of life last week. He had the 7 catches for 89. It was like, okay, he's still got it a little bit. He's still relevant. He has to play the Saints this week, who currently have given up the 5th most points to tight ends. Rice, we said, is down, so Mahomes got to throw somewhere. There's going to be targets to scoop up. Kelce has 0 touchdowns on the season. For how competitive these guys are and the bar that they hold themselves to, 0 touchdowns for Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes. Like, they're not going to be cool with that. I think he blows up. I'm going to call 10 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, geez, that's a monster game.
I
mean, I don't know if he's going to go that crazy, but they're going to scheme to him. They're going to have to. They really don't have anybody else. They don't have a running back at this point. He's going to be their main target guy. Start Kelce and feel confident doing it. My guys aren't just one guy. It's more of just like the team. So Joe Flacco got named quarterback. I like doing that. Joe Flacco got named quarterback 1 because AR's injury. If Flacco plays as QB1, Pittman, Josh Downs, really any Colts player is a must start because that offense is going to look 1,000 times better. I think it's going to be what we saw with the Panthers, and we saw it, right? When he came in, they were moving the ball, they were completing passes, Colts players were relevant again. So you gotta start them if Joe Flacco is going to be QB1. Also, the Jags have one of the worst pass defenses in the entire league. The Colts are also not very far behind. So, like, the Jags are top 5 and the Colts are top 5 in pass defense. So, both sides of the ball, I'm expecting a shootout in this game. A lot of yards, a lot of points, 2 defenses that are terrible and haven't been done much to stop them. So, start these players if you got them.
Yeah, I think if you're a Pittman owner, you are praying that AR is not playing. And plus, as far as like Joe Flacco and the rest of them, if JT's also out and Trey Sermon's just sitting there doing absolutely nothing, Flacco's a seasoned veteran. He's just be like, nah, check out of the run. Just do me quick slants for the rest of the game, and he'll just make things happen. So I think Colts players are a smash start right now.
All right, well, those are the waiver wire ads, trade targets, guys we think you should go after. Let us know. Connect with us on Twitter, on Discord. Shoot us an email. If you like what you saw, thanks for hanging around. Give us a like and subscribe. If not, all good. Appreciate you hanging out with us. Until next time, as always, go steal a championship, and we'll see y'all later.
Peace.